The hospital lobby was unusually quiet for a Tuesday morning. The soft humming of fluorescent lights above, the faint sound of nurses' shoes squeaking on polished floors, and the distant beeping of medical monitors created a solemn background tune. It was in this quiet that a tall man in a dark designer suit walked in, his eyes heavy, shoulders slightly hunched, not from fatigue but from a grief that no amount of wealth or status could ever lighten. He was Thomas Blake, CEO of a billion-dollar tech firm, a man known for his resilience, intelligence, and unmatched leadership. But today, none of that mattered. Just 2 hours earlier, he had lost the one thing he cherished most, his 7-year-old daughter, Emily. The tragedy had come without warning. A rare autoimmune condition took hold, and despite the best medical care money could buy, Emily's small body could not fight it. Thomas had been holding her hand when the monitor flatlined. For a man who had built empires and changed lives with innovation, he felt powerless in front of death. Now, he stood in the lobby, motionless, hollow, waiting for the paperwork, the final signatures, the things no parent should ever have to do. As Thomas stared at the pale marble floor, lost in his own grief, a small voice pulled him back into the present. "Sir, are you my new daddy?" The voice was so soft, so innocent, it almost felt like a whisper in his mind. He looked down, surprised, and saw a little girl, perhaps around 6 years old, with tangled curls and oversized slippers that made a slapping sound each time she moved. She wore a hospital gown, slightly stained and too long for her tiny frame, and held a battered stuffed bunny under her arm. Her eyes, large and searching, were filled with hope, not the kind born out of excitement, but the kind that blooms from desperation. Thomas blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "What did you say?" he asked, his voice barely audible. The girl took a tentative step closer. "They said someone would come for me. They said maybe today, so I thought, maybe you're him." Her voice trembled slightly, but her gaze didn't falter. Thomas knelt down, leveling his eyes with hers. "Who told you that, sweetheart?" She looked around as if checking to make sure no one was watching. "The nurse, Miss Clara. She says sometimes, when mommies can't come back, nice people come instead. She said sometimes they choose us." Thomas felt a sharp sting behind his eyes. He glanced toward the reception desk where a nurse was busy on the phone. The girl must have wandered from the pediatric ward. "Where's your mommy, sweetheart?" "She went to sleep last week," the girl replied. "They said she was tired. But she hasn't woken up since." She clutched the bunny tighter. "I've been waiting." Thomas looked at her, really looked at her. There was no fear in her eyes. No confusion, only the quiet, patient hope of a child who had learned to endure loneliness longer than she ever should have. Her words, innocent and full of longing, cut through him more than any boardroom betrayal or business loss ever could. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Luna," she whispered. "Luna May." He took a breath, steadying the storm inside him. "Luna, I'm not your new daddy," he said slowly, choosing his words with care. "But I can sit with you for a little while. Is that okay?" She nodded, as if that was enough. For now, at least. They sat together on a cold leather bench, Thomas towering beside the tiny child, an unusual pair that drew quiet glances from hospital staff. Luna leaned into his side without asking, her small frame pressing gently into his. Thomas didn't flinch. He welcomed the contact. For the first time in hours, the crushing silence of his grief was interrupted by the heartbeat of something gentle, something real. Nurse Clara eventually approached, having realized where Luna had gone. Her face lit up with both relief and curiosity. "Oh Luna, you wandered off again," she said softly, crouching next to her. "Mr. Blake, I'm so sorry if she bothered you." "She didn't," Thomas interrupted. "She's just fine." Clara gave a small smile. "She's been here almost 2 weeks. Her mother passed from complications due to untreated diabetes. They were living in a shelter before this. No known relatives so far. Social services have been slow." Thomas looked down at Luna, then back at the nurse. "And she's been here all alone?" Clara's smile wavered. "We do our best. But, yes." That night, Thomas didn't return to his penthouse suite or his silent, polished apartment that smelled too clean. Instead, he sat beside Luna's hospital bed in the pediatric ward, reading from the only book she had, Goodnight Moon. His voice cracked more than once, but Luna didn't notice. She was already asleep, her hand wrapped tightly around his finger. The next day, he made calls. A lot of them, not the kind that led to mergers or new investments, but the kind that could change a small girl's entire life. Lawyers, adoption specialists, therapists. He had once moved mountains to build a tech empire, Now, he would move heavens for this child. Weeks passed. What began as daily hospital visits turned into paperwork, hearings, and cautious home visits. Thomas bought Luna a small yellow bike with training wheels. She never had one before. He filled a room in his home with books, stuffed animals, and glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Slowly, the house that had once echoed with emptiness began to feel like a home again. Luna never asked again if he was her new daddy. She didn't need to. Some answers are given in silence, in the way he gently brushed her curls behind her ear, or the way he waited outside her classroom every afternoon, never late, never distracted. In the way he stood quietly at her bedside each night, saying nothing but watching over her as if the universe itself had entrusted him with its rarest treasure. Thomas still carried Emily in his heart. That pain hadn't disappeared, but Luna gave him something new, not a replacement, but a reason to keep living. In her laughter, he heard echoes of his daughter. In her quiet presence, he found comfort. And in her resilience, he discovered hope. One afternoon, months later, as they sat together at a park feeding birds with bits of bread, Luna looked up at him and asked, "Do you think Mommy can see me?" "I do," Thomas replied, wrapping an arm around her. "I think she's very proud of you." "And Emily?" she asked. "The little girl you lost." He swallowed, taken aback. "How do you know about her?" "You talk in your sleep sometimes," she said. "You say her name." Thomas smiled sadly. "Emily would have loved you." "I think she sent me," Luna said simply, as if it were the most obvious truth in the world. Thomas didn't argue. Maybe she had. As the sun dipped below the trees and golden light bathed the park, they sat together, two souls, both once lost in their own ways, now found in each other. The world moved around them, fast and chaotic, but in that moment, there was stillness, peace, and something that neither of them had felt in a long time: family. And perhaps, just perhaps, that little whisper in the hospital lobby wasn't a mistake, but the beginning of a miracle neither of them saw coming.